1500s, I think we might do it. This is a 9-point win. Alright, we're going to go with the Sicilian here. How long will the streaming be going on? I started at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, which was about 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. Let's go E6 in this one. I'm probably going to finish around 5 o'clock, so about another 45 minutes. I stream from 2 to 5 every Monday, Wednesday, and I was planning on doing Friday, but occasionally things may come up on Fridays. Definitely Monday and Tuesday from 2 to 5. I'm going to try to do as many Fridays as I can. Alright, we're going to knight c6. d6. Knight f6. I play d6 so that I don't let him play knight d6 and have to trade off my bishop. Alright, a6. So the opening's, pretty standard by both sides. f3 is also fine. Usually you play knight c3 to guard the pawn, but f3 is okay. Not a huge fan of knight a3. I probably think knight back to c3 is better, but not terrible at the same time. Alright, we're going to go bishop to bishop e7, I believe. Get castled. Play... let's go 95 first. Play b6 and bishop e7 pretty soon. Okay, b6. This pawn's defended, so I can't really do anything with it. Bishop b7. I played on Chess 24 games, but only lost. I'm bad, so I'm not high rating. Okay. Well, I might try playing you in one of the Friendly Fridays, or maybe Friendly Thursday if I do that tomorrow. All depends on how how far I'm in the challenge is the idea. Okay, knight c2. I think I can play b5. This is actually kind of similar to the situation we saw earlier, where the guy played b5, and then I kind of gave up the c4 pawn. I think I'm actually well developed here, though, so I think it's okay to go with b5 here. I don't think there's any problems going on. Yeah, I really don't have any experience with Chess 24, playing on their site at least. I've looked at some videos and stuff like that, but I don't really have any experience with their site, so I don't really know how it works right now. Okay, f4. I think we just retreat. Knight takes e4 now is, pretty big threat. Just winning that pawn. Or take c4 and then take e4. Why did you fianchetto here with the f3 and g4 pawn blocking the diagonal? Well, where else is the bishop going to go is kind of the question. If I put the bishop on d7, I mean, it's not really going anywhere at that point either. So it's kind of... The bishop usually ends up on b7 in this setup. Because even if he never played f4, I might play d5 at some point and kind of blast open the center, is the idea. Okay, so knight d4, this ends up losing a pawn. I'm going to play b4, kick the knight, and then play knight takes e4. So once the knight moves, I pick up the e4 pawn. Okay, I guess I can also just take on e5 and win a pawn that way. Seems fine. Knight takes. The c3 knight is still attacked, so he still has to retreat it, and I'm going to play like rook to d8 and pin his d4 knight to his queen. Black's actually in a pretty, or I'm sorry, White's actually in a pretty bad spot here, as we'll see. Rook d8 is really going to be a big blow. Yeah. So if he gets out of the pin, if he plays queen c2 or queen e1, then I have like knight g4, which is a killer. Yeah, so I think knight g4 here is just kind of crushing. I'm threatening the checkmate on h2, and I'm threatening the bishop on e3. And if this bishop moves, then this knight on d4 is weak. So if he plays bishop f4, I have like e5. Try to mate him on g2. If I make the mate threats, apparently they don't respect him, so I could have maybe tried. I think h2 is a little easier to access with some crazy stuff. Bishop takes g2, and then I'm going to sacrifice all my pieces and get the checkmate. That'd be pretty cool if it happened, but I think h2 is quite a bit easier to get at. Okay, so knight takes again, threatening h2 still. Alright, Vladimir, so you've seen before, if you make the mate threats, they don't see them. Queen takes h2 is the easy mate there. Alright, let's analyze this one quick and then get on to another game. Flip the board. e4, c5, knight f3, e6. So both sides play the opening fine. Not too much to say. The reason for the bishop going on b7... The reason for the bishop going on b7 is that it is also kind of aimed toward the king side. And at some point, not maybe anytime soon, but the idea at some point is to play d5. Maybe rook here, queen retreat, then d5, something like that. And then once I play d5 and there's a bunch of exchanges, then the bishop's going to be very good on this diagonal. That's why it goes to b7 instead of like d7. Here though, rook c8, knight here, b5. He should... a little tricky to recommend anything. I guess he could just move this knight back. I take, and then he goes here. And then he's going to pick up the pawn. Whoops, he's going to pick up the pawn anyways. But instead he played f4. Looks like it makes sense on the surface, but he's weakening this pawn. So there's lots of threats in the position. I push the pawn, he moves the knight. He does this first. Moves the knight. Rook d8, queen e1, knight g4. Big mate threat. Take, take. He should play bishop f4 to stop the threat. However, I'm still going to win a piece here. I mean, e5, knight here. I mean, I guess technically if I take here, he takes here, which doesn't work out, but I could check. He has to do this kind of stuff. It's a much better position for black. I could also... Well, I can't play queen c6 now, because that's a big no-no. But it's a much better position for black after I win the pawn here, and then play knight g4. Let's see, you had d5 before? Playing d5 when the queen is on c7 and the rook is on d5 is always iffy, because once he captures, then this rook is potentially lined up on the queen. So I don't want to play d5 too early, until my queen is positioned correctly. It's kind of funny that if you blatantly hang your queen against a much weaker player, often they don't take it because they think you won blatantly hang your queen. I guess it's blatantly. Yeah, so sometimes people think there's traps when there's really not traps. You're saying d5 here? Yeah, he couldn't take with the c-pawn because I grabbed the knight, but let's say he takes and then goes, I don't know, bishop f4? Let's say he does that. I mean, I guess I could still at the end of the day. It's always a little risky, though, is all I'm saying. I could probably still get away with it, but it's always a little risky to do it when your queen is on c7 and the rook is lined up. Because maybe not in this specific case, but there are potential ideas of these two knights disappearing and then my queen being hit on or something like that. Yeah, just like when Carlsen blundered against Anand in the World Championship. Anand would have spotted the blunder against any other player. You're saying d5 here also, attacking the knight? Well, I mean, he could still do the same. I guess it would have worked as well. Maybe here he plays, like, I don't know, knight a4, take. I'm sorry, not take. He would take on b6, I assume. Something like that. My position's under a little pressure, but it was possible. Yeah, I could have done it there. When you play bad players, do you have a Smurf account? I've never had